Hey everyone, Tim Higgins here. So it's been a while since I've done a video, so I thought I would do one on an MCP. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because we've been doing a lot of AI programming, and probably more than I could ever imagine. And of course, most of the world is at this point. And I've been extremely busy with clients, been extremely busy, just heads down and building AI applications. Now, one of the things that pops up in this new concept is an MCP. Now, what I would ask you to do is if you really want to learn the MCP, is go to just any Google or whatever your browser is and type in mcp.io, search for it, and you'll come to it, or just spell it out, model content protocol. I'm not going to get in details of what this is, but I will cover some good ideas. Now, at a high level, you can read what it is. It's open source. Anthropic came up with this a while back in a paper, and then it caught on like you can't believe. Now we're going to talk about it. We're going to dive into it. We're going to build a couple. So what I'm going to do is hit some highlights that made sense to me. Let me see if I can zoom in actually, so you can see all this. It might have been too big, but let's see how big it is. Okay, cool. So a few things. The model content protocol is what it stands for. And to me, it made more sense if I reversed that. And I was reading an article or something, somebody reversed it, and it made sense. And I'm trying to talk fast because I want to get into some programming, and I don't want to waste too much time and make this a very long video because let's be honest, nobody's going to watch it. Now, um, if you think about what a protocol is, you think about rules, right? Standards like HTTP. The protocol that MCP by default uses to when agents talk to it is a JSON RPC. Okay, so that's the default. There's probably more going to come down the pipeline, but in reality, is if you're not using this, in my opinion, then you're not truly using an MCP. Other people may debate, but what I saw in the past is a lot of people just doing API calls and calling it an MCP. That's not what it is. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to build a couple, and then it's going to make sense to you. Okay, so content, that's your standard interface. Okay, it makes more sense when you see it, so don't worry too much about it. And of course, your models when it's connected to the AI. All this information that I've got here came off of this site. Okay, so spend time to actually go through here. I think it was actually here where yeah. Let's go down a little bit. Layers, database. So here's where it talks about your protocols, right? So there's the streamable HTTP protocol. And then there's and again, that's fine, but I prefer to use this one, right? So if you see it right there, and that might not even been what that was for, transport layer. Okay. So right here, this is in my opinion, what's most important. That's what we're going to dive into in a few minutes because they are tools, right? So that's your custom functions. Your resources is what's returning the data. And then your prompts is your prompt templates. Now, if you don't know what a prompt template is, it's just a predefined prompt in a way that you can customize and move along the way. You'll see that. So basically think of it as a template for your prompting. Okay. Um, Now, in theory, I wish I had a really cool model to show you, and I'm pretty sure you can look online. But the concept is if you have a custom application that's using, some type of model retrieval, right? Um, a lot of times that model is just going out to its local model. For an example, Claude is going to go out to Anthropic and it's going to come back with your question. But what if I want to define that more to my company? For an example, we have a database, or maybe I have a custom APIs, or maybe some JSON files that I want whenever the AI says, hey, I have a question. Well, that question may be about my database. Well, this model is not going to know about my database, right? So, and there are other ways in the past that we kind of did that made it kind of tricky. Like I think I have videos out there on how to use lane graph and things like that. You can do that and add those in there, but the concept now is the MCP. So that's what we're going to talk about. So if you think about if I take an MCP client and say, hey, I have other tools out there that you could use in your query. So then your app gets smarter. So what happens is my app, sorry, well, if I type it in, that's okay. Then if my app goes out there and says, hey, go now to use your agent and hit the MCP server, and the MCP server has a list of tools. And we're going to do this today. We're going to build one that hits an external API. We're going to use iTunes. And we're going to do one that also builds a database. And I may split those up into two, just keep them short. And we'll do CRUD functions on those databases. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get started so we don't waste a lot of time. I'm going to open up a terminal. And what I'm going to do is just go to my desktop. Let me make this bigger where you can see it because that's pretty ugly. And what we're going to do is we're going to minimize this stuff so you can see my desktop. And we're actually going to use Claude as our AI. So we're going to ask questions against Claude. So what is the shortcut to make this larger, bigger? Okay, so cool. Same as the other ones, just making sure. Let's make it where you can actually see it. All right, so a little overkill, but hopefully you can see it. What we're gonna do, if you want to follow along, but I'm not gonna do the exact, is if you go over here and we look at building one of these, right? So if I go to servers, this explains everything I kind of just ran through to tell you, right? Resources, prompts, and there's a lot of great examples out here how to use OAuth and things like that, and a little bit deeper. My examples didn't come from here, and I'll explain why when we're building it because it would make more sense. But the other thing you want to look at is SDKs. Now, there's a lot of languages out there. I know there's a lot of people on my team that swear by Go, but of course, everybody knows from my videos. I'm a Python guy, Python and C++. But there's other things out here that you can use. Now, if I click on this Python, it takes me to the Python SDK. And there's what we're going to use to make this fast and easy. In fact, I think it's actually called Fast MCP. But we're going to follow this kind of. Actually, I do like theirs better. So, yeah. So, okay. So we'll kind of follow theirs in a way, but we're going to do it our way as well because that's what Tim does and he makes it worse. The few things that I need to talk about is since we're using Python, there is this new UV. Okay. Don't get confused. I saw a video where somebody was just going crazy over this and they didn't understand it, but then I understood because they're not a Python person. It's really just a package handler, same as pip. In fact, I've got where I love it. It is so easy and convenient. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to cover all this and let's just get started. So I'm on my desk. No, I'm not on my desktop. We're going to go to my desktop and we're going to create a new folder. So make, I was just trying to think what I want to call this. Um, well, let me finish this out first. So I think we'll just call this our first MCP live because we're using a live API. So we'll call it live, maybe just live demo, right? I don't want, let's stick with our Python, MCP live demo. And I think that's fine. So we'll go into that, CD, MCP live demo. Okay, so we're there. Okay, so the next thing what we want to do is you want to bring in this UV. Okay, there's a term for it. I forgot what it is. I completely apologize. But it's an ugly URL. So if you don't have it, I have it installed, but it's like curl lssf, which means install package, right? And I think it's on ASTRAL. Put to me S, sorry. ASTRAL dot SHUV dot install dot SH. Oh, and it's obviously protocol, right? It's an HTTPS protocol. And I think that will get it for you. You can Google that to ask. And of course, you want to pipe that to your over here. So I believe that's what it is, but I have it installed. So Google that if you don't have it installed. I'm using a Mac, right? Obviously, as you can tell. But I'm 100% positive there's a Windows version 2. So once you do that, you just have to restart your shell command and you're good. But let me show you how easy it is to use it. So let me make sure, not US UV version. So perfect, I have it installed. I also have Python, and because I'm using a Mac, it's Python 3. Okay, cool. And that's just an alias, right? So yours may say Python. So let's get some space here, some real estate. Are we still in here? Yeah, we are. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do to set up the project, we just want to say UV initialize our demo. I'm sorry, I'm typing way faster than I can talk. We're initializing our demo. We'll call it 1-API. Okay, is that fair? Bam. Cool. So what that gave us, let me drag it over here so you can actually see it, or I can just do an LSL. So, oh, it hasn't done it yet, I don't think. Let's go look. So that, yeah, so it did. So it set us up these folders here. ls dot. Oh, I'm not in the, so I'm sorry, I'm not in the actual folder. No, I'm in. Okay, so now I can see those files there. Okay, so it gave us a main. It gave us this project file. We'll talk about that in a few seconds. That has some really good information in, and it created a blank README file. Sorry, I don't know why I'm scrolling. So now what we want to do is we want to, and if anybody asks, ping me on this video and I'll give you these scripts. They're really not hard. I'm just moving fast because I want to get to the code. So now what we want to do is we want to set up our environment. So if you know how the environments work, right? You always set up a VMV. So for an example, pip is pip. Once you do the pip install, you would set up the environment, and then that will put you inside the environment. So when you install your packages, it's not installing them local. That's how that kind of works. So what we'll do is we're good there. And it even gives me the source to activate this. So we'll grab that, and we'll put that there. Bam, just like that. And what that does is that puts us inside this little environment. And if you remember, the other one is like pip minus m, I think, let's say pip minus m vem, no, dot vmv. So if you don't want to use this, the UV, then this is the older way of doing it, and you get the same results. Not a big deal. But what is a little bit more different, so now that we're in here, what we want to do now is we want to add a couple of references. So our UV, the first thing we want to add is our MCP. We want the CLI of MCP. So MCP, CLI, we want to close this in a bracket. And of course, we want to use our HTTPX to get some of our references in. Let's see what I did wrong, because I talk and I type and I have no references. I mean, it looks right. Let's go ahead and add the HTTP. That's what I did wrong. See, it's not HPPP, it's HTTP. There we go. Okay, cool. So now the references are there. So clear, and that should have put it inside here. Yep, there it is. So it's kind of cool. So it's kind of like your references file from before, right? So when you had your requirements file.txt, this kind of does everything for you. And to me, this just makes sense. I can even change this to say, this is our iTunes, if I can spell it, MCP. Okay, cool. And that's kind of it. So we'll save that, save, and we'll close. Okay, so now what I want to do now, because we're going to jump into some code, is I'm going to leave the command line. But the reason I use the command line, you do not have to do it this way. It's because I wanted to follow this. So when you went through this, does this take me to the actual link? Yeah, it does. Okay, cool. So from in here, yeah, that's what you need to do. Oh, I got it right. Cool. So anyway, so if you follow this, this is kind of what we did. And then they're going to go into this, and we're not going to do it this way. Okay, so we're kind of done with all this. Let's close that. But if you know me, ever seen my videos, I am a fan of PyCharm. So what I'm going to do is open this up. And what we're going to do is go to our folder, desktop, and we're in live demo 1, and we're just going to go to the root. Bam. Okay, so now we're good. So what I want to do now, and this is kind of cool because we're using this UV, it knows to pick all this up. There's an error, but that's okay. Let's close all this. But if you look over here, I am still inside my service, which is kind of cool. So my VMV, and notice it's a .vmv, which is what we had done if we did pip. So all that's really cool. So we're just going to rename this for best practice. You could delete it, and you could create a new one. Sorry, I'm talking too much. We're going to just name it server. That seems to be the best practice name that I've seen. And we're just going to delete all this. Okay, because we're going to start scratch. Now, let's actually have some fun here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a very basic one first, and then we'll talk about more details in a few seconds, okay? So what we want to do is we want to bring in our, let's go ahead and bring in our sources. So import HTTPX, and then what we're going to do from here, we want to say from mcp.server .fast MCP. We want to import our MCP. Okay. Now, the one thing I want to show, notice it wants to do this. So we'll go ahead and grab that, but I don't want that right yet. So we're going to comment that out. Now, what we're going to do is we're just going to build a basic Python file. Okay. And I think that's where a lot of people misunderstand this, but it has to be an async. Okay. So I don't, one thing is these little pop ups. So what's it called when there's a term when code vibe? Vibe programming usually means AI is doing it for me, but we're smart. We're going to do it ourselves. Okay. Because I feel like you're going to miss how to program if you don't. And I think that's why a lot of people have problems with MCPs is they're trying to get too much information out there, but they're not understanding the baseline. It's still just Python, right? So so we're going to make this a definition, of course. And this is going to be, if you know me, of course, we're going to do search for Van Halen. Van Halen. Oh, okay. Jeez, can you spell? Okay, there we go. Perfect. Now this gets kind of tricky, and AI is going to screw us up with this. So what we need to do is we need to pass in a couple parameters. So the first thing I want to pass in is one called query, and it's going to expect a string. I know this is helping us, but it's not what I want to do. I want to give this string a default value of eruption, right? One of the best songs by Van Halen, by Eddie himself. So eruption, and it has to return a string. So this is just a cool way to return a string. Okay, there we go. So, and then here we just need to close it off with a semicolon. So if you don't know Python, we're doing async. I'm defining a method, right? And then there I'm passing in a parameter called query, and I'm giving it a default string value. I'm setting it as a string, and I'm passing in this, and my return should be a string. So now let's go ahead and let's add a comment, and you'll see why. It's kind of cool. Maybe that's close enough. Yeah, that's fine. I want to say though on iTunes, just to clear that. Now, for those who don't know, 3 dots is an easy way to give comments in Python. But we're going to come back to that. Actually, I don't want 3 dots. I'm sorry. Let's do it this way. Get rid of our 3. You're really being a pain in the butt. Hold on. There we go. And then at the end, we'll close that off. Bump, bump, bump. And let's get rid of that and get rid of that. There we go. Okay, cool. So we'll explain why later. Again, these little tool tips, I thought they were awesome, but sometimes they can be a pain in the butt. Now, what I want to do here is just create a response, kind of like a JSON, right? Because this is going to be calling an API. And because we did an async, we have to do a wait, right? So let's go ahead and do wait, client.get. That's close, but let's see. I don't think, no, because obviously I did this earlier last week, and it doesn't take the query like this. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. So client.get, let's get some real estate here so we can see what we're doing. Okay, there we go. And our await is fine. .get is fine, but we just need to find this. So let's see, how do we get, it's close, but not really. So let's just do it this way. HTTPS, iTunes, this part's really easy, .com. Oh, actually, that's what it misses. It's Apple. Yeah, like that. I don't think you need US, but you do need the search. Okay, so we probably could do the query that way, but I wanna do this myself, and I don't want tooltips to help. Okay, so that will get you to iTunes. Now, from here, we need to pass in some parameters. So I'll take that for now. Oops, I lost it. But params, I'll take that, but let's clean it up a little bit. So it needs terms. Yep, cool. And then we need another parameter. Actually, let's F, which will allow us to customize this a little bit better, because we can say we need to define it a little better. Van Halen, and then the query. And then close that off. And then next thing we need to do is, that's our term, and then we need the entity, right? If that's correct. And that's fine. And then we need a limit because we don't want it to bring back everything. And that's going to be a limit of 5. Okay. That way, if we say name all Van Halen songs that Eddie played in, it would bring back everything, but we're just going to limit it to 5. Okay. So term is what your query is. Your entity is what you're looking for. In this case, I'm going to look for a song. And then the limit that I'm going to return is 5. And that should be right. Okay. So now what's next? Well, that's kind of it. So now what we need to do is close this off. I'm kind of worried that we have a quiggly line under our client. We'll get to that in a minute. But this next step, I believe, is correct. So we'll go ahead and tab through that just to make sure. Actually, I want to say data equals. I like to do that in case I need to test it, right? So I'm just looking at that client, kind of worries me. So let's do some load testing. If not, data dot get. If you know anything about JSON, that's pretty much all this is. Results. Keep in mind, none of this is MCP. We're just writing Python code to pull back data from iTunes. That's all we're doing at this point. So if data results is blank, then return. Let's go ahead and format our query string and say no Van Halen songs found on iTunes for, query. Perfect. That way we can see what our query is. And then, let's see. Oh, I know what I did. Holy smokes, Batman. Very important. We forgot to call the client. I was trying to figure out what that problem was, and I kept staring at it, but I did forget this. Async with, we need HTTPX, and that's where that comes in at. Client as client. Perfect. So now, and then, well, we got to fix our tabs here. Okay, and this one needs to go in. Does it? No, it doesn't. It's fine. Okay, so now we got rid of our error message. We got a warning here, but I think it's because we're not done yet. But what we want now is, let's create an empty dictionary. So equals, and we need a placeholder to stick our stuff in. So for song equals data results. Yeah, that's fair enough. And then that's close, but I want to give it more detail because we're going to get a lot of details back. So what we're going to say is format song title is fine. Actually, it's not song title. It's called track. Song track name. I think that's how it is. And then the next one is going to be, let's go ahead to a minus. That's close, but it's not what that is. I think it's called collection name for the song. Because up here we asked what we want is a song, right? The entity. So, and then that puts us at, let's see if this works. Again, close, but not what we want. Song, so this has to get the data. Song.get. So format, let me just read it for a second, sorry. So format song track name. That's going to match, whatever the track came back, and collection name, which matches our entity. Okay. But then we need to get the data because it's JSON. So get, let's get a release date. That's what that would work. Okay. So get out of the JSON release date. If I spelled that right. No, I did not. Okay. Release date. Okay. Perfect. And then from there, what we want is to say, if there's no release date, I want you to return nothing. Okay, perfect. And then that, and then we have to obviously filter through that. So if you don't know what this is, just copy mine, right? And then kind of look it up because this is just an example. But what we need to do, I'll fix that error in a few seconds. I'm pretty sure we got our quotations wrong. But what we need to do is we need to filter out to get that information. So okay, so this is really nasty. So let's see what we got. First of all, let's get rid of this. So our format song single track minus song, and that's fine. Single colon, that's fine. Then we need a space. And then we're going to put this all in the same bracket. That's fine. Release date should be that. Get. What am I missing here? Oh, get's not a get, should be that. Okay, there we go. A little bit better. So get, I think, release comma and a. Let's close that off. And that should be a single quote because, oh, that's what it was, because we started with a double quote. That was throwing it off. Let's close that. We don't need that. And then from here, what we need is one closed and then a square bracket and then our 4. And then we've got to clean all this off. So we need a square bracket, that, close that off, and then close everything off. Okay, so it's still a little bit off. Give me 1 second to look at it. Oh, well, I do need the last close. Let's see. So we got 1, and this is probably what's going to take the longest in the video, so I may cut this part just to make sure. But that's correct, and that's correct. This little piece right here is kind of jacked up. So we got this one right here, and then we got a curly bracket, and then song.get release date, if I spelled it correctly, and then this piece, and then here, and then we just need to format out that data. So that 4, close that off. I'll get too many square brackets. There we go. Perfect. All right. Whew. Holy crap, Tim. That's a lot of work. All right. So now what we want to do is return this, right? So here we're going to say return. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So that brings it back, with a new line character. Okay. Whew, what a pain. All right. So now if you know anything about Python, we're just going to say if main equals main. And then what we'll do, I don't want to do that yet. What I want to do is test this. Okay. All right. So that should be fine. So what we're going to do is put a break right here. Now we're in async. So what I care most about is right here. But again, this is just Python, right? Maybe I should make it big screen. That's really just Python. Nothing magical there. So one thing I do want to do that is really tricky is once you start adding stuff, you want to make sure every now and then you do UV sync. I think it's all lowercase. I meant to say sync. Okay, cool. And what that does is that syncs your packages to that file. So let's see what happens and see if we have any boo-boos. Let me see. Let me look. Oh, we got to return our results here. So that can't call that. It's because the async. I'm sorry. So we'll do what we'll do results equals async. Isn't it async IO? Yep, right there. Dot run. And then that should run that. Okay, cool. Now that will work. Now we don't need to pass in this query because we have it defaulted, but it's okay. AI put it there, so we'll take it. So apologize about that. I was just trying to call it straight. That would have worked if you weren't in async mode. If you notice, we're using async IO to run it. And now this is just straight Python. In fact, I could even just get rid of this. Okay, so this, nothing fancy here. Let's just see what comes back, right? So let's just see debug. And let's just jump over this, go to our console. I jump over. And then I don't want to jump over too much because it may end without us seeing our results. But as you see now, it's kind of coming back to some results, which is, oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't print it out. Oops, sorry. So let's do one last thing right here, and that's print our results. Okay, cool. So, bam. Now let's just run it. Okay, perfect. So what that did, that actually went to iTunes. It gave us a search on Van Halen songs, and it brought back 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So now let's go ahead and break this out. And what we're going to do now, though, we're going to turn it into an MCP builder. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this. This is going to cause errors. So let's just go ahead and comment this out. Okay. That will cause errors because you have to have, you know what, I'm not even comment out. We don't even need it. Bam, bam. But if you think about it, what we need is a tool. Okay, so we're going to say, let's bring in our fast MCP again, right? So from mcp.server, fast MCP, import fast MCP. And then what we're going to do, we're going to claim this as an MCP. So that's fine, but we're going to give it a name. So we'll call this Van Halen search, which is fine with me. Now, if I can spell it. Now here, what we're going to do is we're going to say at mcp.tool, kind of has to spell it right, mcp.tool, and make sure it's lowercase. Now, all this is on the SDK page. And what this will do is now turn this into a tool. Now, the cool thing is the reason I do this as double quotes and not single quotes, because now this is what the tool's definition will see. Okay, so that's kind of cool. But the rest of this we're not going to change. The only other thing we're going to change is we're going to come down here and we've got to kick it off mcp.run. And that's kind of it. Now, one thing I want to do is come down here and I want to say, this unicorn, I keep wanting to say uvicord is a way to run this. And I never said that right, but it's a way to run this as a portal type situation, right? But we're not using that. So this UV kind of reminds me of that. So that's kind of it. So now what we've got to do though, is we've got to tell Claude that this exists. Okay. Now, one thing we could do is run it to test it, but we're not going to get any results. So it's running, no results, right? Here, these errors just because I ran it. We're kind of done with this because it's kind of ugly. Well, you know what? No, we're going to build a second one. So we'll leave it open. But there's one thing right here. Oh, see, I got some notes here for you. So make sure you do sync. And this is what we need to get to now for Claude. This isn't everything, but we got to set our Claude to know that we have an MCP builder. So if I do Command Shift G, that should bring me directly to this little window, and I have it already in my memory. So we're going to go there and we're going to open this Claude desktop. Now, if you don't have it, create it. I didn't have it when I first started. It's Claude_desktop configure. And again, you can find this online. Not a big deal. So what we want now is to put that data in there. So I was hoping I had something in there, but I didn't. So give me 1 second to. So what we want to do is we have to make sure a couple of things. The name of our server, okay? This command line needs to point to this. So if you don't know which one it is, let's close that because we don't need it. Where's our bash? Just do which UV, and that will tell you that, and then just copy that over, okay? So that's all you got to do for that. That's the command. So this is a lot like Docker. It's going to kick off a command, and then it's going to want to know what your arguments are. Now, the directory is not going to be the same. This is an old one that I did. In fact, we'll definitely do that one again. But let's see. We need to get to this one. So just open in. I know it's on my desktop, but it's good to have that full path. So what we're going to do is just grab one of these and get info. And we're going to copy this over. Let's see. So that gives us desktop. And okay, so this is what we need. So what that's doing is just giving us to the base server py file. Now, if you remember earlier, I said we renamed the main. You could keep it main, but you have to make sure this says main too. Okay. And that's kind of it. So we're saying directory run this file, or directory to this file, and then run this. And that's all we're doing. Okay. But it's using UV to do that with, because that's going to handle its packages. Now let's go ahead and close this because we don't need it. We're going to close this. Now the key is, since I did that, I'm just going to drag this one over and I'm going to replace it. Now I have to stop Claude and come back in. Okay. If you do have errors, let's hope I don't. If you do, it will pop up. Okay, so I didn't have any errors, but it will pop up and say there's, you have errors. The good news is it's already there. Do you see the Van Halen MCP? Okay, you can always test it. Let's give it 2 seconds. Yes, it can see it. Cool. So what I want to, and it actually sees this as its tool. So what I want to say is What album did, uh, let's see, what's a good question? So I'm trying to think because our database is going to have something pretty similar. But I think I can say what um, Van Halen songs. Let's see what album. That's fine. We'll just do album. What album is Mean Street on? Which is one of my favorite Van Halen songs. Okay. Now the cool thing is, let's see what it does. This is how you know that it's using your MCP. So I want to say just allow this once because that way we can always check it. Searching is thinking, and there you go. That is correct. Now, how cool is that? All right, so what I'm probably going to do is just stop this video because I'm going to do some cleanup. And then we'll go back and I'll start the second video and we'll do, you know, yeah, it's fine. And we'll do a more in-depth